Pause for a moment. Look at the screen in front of you. A video, a voice, a photograph. Now ask a simple question. Is it real? For most of the internet's history, that question felt unnecessary. Images could be edited, audio could be cut, but there was still a basic assumption. Seeing was believing. That assumption is now under pressure, not because reality has changed, but because our ability to simulate it has improved. Across Europe and beyond, institutions, journalists, and researchers are paying close attention to a growing phenomenon: AI-generated deepfakes and synthetic media. Not as science fiction, not as a distant risk, but as a present challenge to how information works. This is not a story about panic. It is a story about trust and what happens when trust becomes harder to earn. Deepfakes are media created or altered using artificial intelligence. Most often, they involve video or audio. A person appears to say or do something they never actually did. Synthetic media is a broader term. It includes deepfakes, but it also includes AI-generated images, voices, text, and video that may not be based on a real event at all. Some examples are harmless. AI-generated voices used for accessibility, synthetic images for advertising, virtual presenters reading the news. Others are more concerning. A realistic video of a public event that never happened, an audio clip of a voice that sounds familiar but is entirely fabricated, a photo designed to trigger an emotional reaction before anyone asks questions. The key point is this: these systems do not simply edit reality, they can create a convincing version of it from scratch. And they are becoming easier to use. A few years ago, creating a convincing deepfake required technical skill, specialized software, time, and computing power. Today, much of that complexity has disappeared. User-friendly tools exist. Cloud-based services lower the barrier. Short clips can be generated in minutes. Quality has improved as well. Faces move naturally. Voices carry emotion. Background noise sounds authentic. To the untrained eye and ear, the result can feel real, especially when viewed quickly, especially on small screens, especially when shared through trusted networks. This combination of realism and accessibility is what has caught the attention of European institutions. Europe's concern is not accidental. It is shaped by history, structure, and responsibility. First, Europe is linguistically and culturally diverse. Dozens of languages, many national media systems, different levels of digital literacy. Synthetic media can be adapted easily across languages. A single fabricated message can be localized and reshaped. That makes coordinated misinformation harder to detect. Second, Europe places strong emphasis on information integrity, public broadcasting, media standards, data protection, consumer rights. When trust in information erodes, these systems are affected, not dramatically overnight, but gradually, quietly. Third, Europe has recent experience with information disruption, false narratives spreading online, manipulated media crossing borders quickly, platforms struggling to respond consistently. Deepfakes add a new layer to that challenge. They're not just misleading statements, they are misleading evidence. It is important to be clear, this is not only a European problem. Synthetic media does not respect borders. A video created in one country can influence audiences in another. Platforms are global. Algorithms are global. Europe's response is drawing attention because it is formal and structured, but the underlying concern is shared worldwide. The question is not who is affected, it is how societies choose to respond. One area of concern is elections. Elections rely on informed choice. Voters assess messages, behavior, and credibility. Synthetic media complicates that process. A realistic video released at the wrong moment can distract, it can confuse, it can force institutions to spend time disproving something that was never real. The risk is not mass persuasion, it is disruption. Even when a deepfake is identified quickly, damage can linger. Corrections travel more slowly than initial impressions. Doubt can remain. European institutions view this as a procedural risk, not a collapse of democracy, but a strain on already complex systems. Beyond elections, there is a broader issue: public trust. When people are repeatedly exposed to synthetic media, a pattern can emerge. Skepticism grows, confidence weakens. At first, people may believe false content. Later, they may doubt real content. This is sometimes called the liar's dividend. When everything could be fake, accountability becomes harder. Evidence loses weight. For societies built on documentation, transparency, and records, this matters, not because truth disappears, but because verifying truth takes more effort. Journalism is especially affected. News organizations rely on visual and audio evidence, photos from the field, videos from witnesses, recorded statements. As synthetic media becomes more convincing, verification becomes slower. Newsrooms must check more, publish later, explain more context. This is responsible journalism, but it also changes the pace of information. Meanwhile, unverified content can spread instantly, often without malicious intent, simply shared by people who think it looks real. European media regulators and press organizations see this as a credibility challenge, not because journalism is failing, but because the environment is changing. This brings us to regulation. The European Union has introduced the AI Act. It's a legal framework designed to address risks associated with artificial intelligence. The approach is risk-based. Not all AI systems are treated the same. Higher-risk applications face stricter requirements. For synthetic media, the focus is largely on transparency, clear labeling, disclosure when content is artificially generated or manipulated, safeguards against deceptive use. The goal is not to ban AI-generated content, it is to make its presence visible. The Act also places responsibility on developers and deployers, those who create tools, those who use them at scale. Importantly, this is not a final solution. It is a framework, one that will evolve as technology evolves. European institutions describe it as a starting point, a way to align innovation with accountability. Critics and supporters agree on one thing: artificial intelligence is valuable. AI supports medical research, improves accessibility, enhances creative work, increases efficiency across industries. Where you can direct a voice, create realistic dialogue, and so much more. Edit these placeholders to get started. European regulators have been careful to state this: the technology itself is not the enemy. The concern is misuse, deception, lack of transparency. Regulation in this context is presented as guardrails, not roadblocks. Whether those guardrails are sufficient is an open question, but the intent is clear: preserve trust while allowing progress. This distinction matters. A synthetic voice reading a book for someone with visual impairment is not harmful. An AI-generated avatar delivering emergency instructions can be helpful. Problems arise when synthetic media is designed to mislead, when it imitates real people without disclosure, when context is removed intentionally. Technology does not choose intent. People do. European institutions emphasize this point repeatedly. Responsibility lies with use, not existence. Europe's actions are being watched. Other regions are considering similar frameworks. Some are moving faster. Some are taking a lighter approach. What happens in Europe may influence global standards, especially for platforms operating across borders. But regulation alone cannot solve the trust problem. Trust is cultural, it is social, it is learned over time. Which brings us to the role of individuals. So what can ordinary people do? First, slow down. Deepfakes rely on speed and emotion. Pause before sharing. Second, check the source. Where did the content originate? Is it reported by multiple credible outlets? Third, look for context. Short clips can mislead, even when real. Synthetic media often lacks surrounding detail. Fourth, pay attention to disclosure. Labels and watermarks will become more common. Learn what they look like. Fifth, accept uncertainty. It is okay not to know immediately. Waiting is sometimes the most responsible choice. Education plays a quiet but critical role here. Digital literacy is no longer optional. Understanding how media can be created and manipulated is becoming a basic skill. Hello, we're excited to show you our native speech capabilities. Europe has invested heavily in this area, not through warnings, but through curricula and public awareness. The idea is simple: an informed audience is harder to deceive. It is tempting to frame deepfakes as a crisis. That language attracts attention. But European institutions tend to use a different tone: measured, procedural, long-term. They see synthetic media as a stress test for laws, for platforms, for social norms. Not a single breaking point, but an ongoing adjustment. Despite these challenges, trust has not disappeared. People still rely on institutions, on experts, on shared evidence. What is changing is how trust is built. Verification is more visible. Transparency is more explicit. In a way, this shift may strengthen information systems over time, if handled carefully. That is the responsibility Europe is trying to shoulder, not perfectly, but deliberately. We are entering a period where seeing is no longer enough, where hearing is not always believing, where context matters more than ever. Synthetic media is a powerful tool. It can inform, it can create, it can also mislead. Europe's response reflects a broader question facing all of us. How do we adapt our expectations of truth in a digital world? Not by rejecting technology, not by fearing innovation, but by redefining trust. As artificial intelligence continues to shape how information is made and shared, the real challenge may not be detecting what is fake. It may be deciding what kind of information culture we want to build next. And that raises one final question. In a world where reality can be simulated so convincingly, what will earn our confidence tomorrow? This content is provided for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute legal, professional, or technical advice. Viewers are encouraged to verify information independently and consult qualified experts when necessary. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.